we'll see what the coming games bring. Now, we always ask you, as we do, about the latest story, sort of contracts. It is the January window, rumours or sort of topical elements that are swirling at the moment. And this one came up last night. I did want to ask you about your thoughts on Harvey Elliott and a little bit of Jarell Kwanzaa as well, because obviously we're trying to create stuff, we're trying to get a goal. Harvey Elliott doesn't see a single minute of action again. And so far, I mean, if you look at those minutes, I know there's been an injury there, but 237 minutes against what's been available is seriously low. Have you got, I don't know if concerns is the right word, but is there any sort of feeling from you that maybe, just maybe, and Slot mentioned about him wanting minutes as the number 10, Arne Slot maybe doesn't fancy him that much there because Curtis Jones comes on for Szoboszlai as well?
Yeah, I think it's fair to be worried. I think it's quite clear that he's not really fancied, to be honest. I think you can, in a game like that you just, like you say, he was so key in moments like that last season under Jurgen Klopp, coming in to kind of when Liverpool are dominating the ball, finding little pockets, finding the little pass. He's so good at that. And I don't really understand why Arne Slot isn't seeing that. I do wonder whether one of his big concerns is physicality. If you bring him on there against the Nottingham Forest side that has got pace, it's got real strength throughout it, that he's, maybe gets bullied off the ball and it ends in a counter-attack and suddenly you lose the game. That can be the only explanation for it, because in terms of unpicking the lock and, he offers... I thought Curtis did quite well when he came on, actually, in terms of retaining possession, fighting for it back, just making sure that Liverpool kept the ball and so they could keep the pressure on and keep Forest penned in. But in terms of, as I say, unpicking the lock, I think Elliott is far better than he is in terms of that. So, you've got to factor in the injury. And I know there are rumours about Harvey, and I've had those kind of shut down at the moment and still a feeling he's got a big role to play. And from his perspective, still wants to be a Liverpool player, absolutely, and is desperate to kind of force his way in. But I do think it's fair to be concerned at this point of the season that he's so struggling for minutes, when he's such a good... he's such a good player, and it's a shame not to be seeing more of him.
Yeah, it is disappointing, just because you think how many times he was the 12th man, if you want to call it that, or the super sub at times last season. But if this manager doesn't quite fancy him, then I suppose that is what it is. And the other player I wanted to ask you about almost feels in a similar boat a little bit. I mean, Gravenberch goes back to centre-back. Jarell Kwanzaa's probably asking a few questions or wondering a few things, isn't he?
I'd maybe disagree with that, because I think there's a tactical reason that he does this. It's not because he wants to bring Konate off. It's because Liverpool are getting a lot of the ball with their centre-halves. And what, you saw a lot in the first half, Konate was getting free rein to kind of dribble out from the back. But because he's not that gifted with the ball at his feet compared to a midfielder, a lot of the moves are breaking down, or he's getting kind of nudged off the ball or whatever. So I think it made sense when Liverpool were being able to have the ball at their centre-backs with absolutely no pressure on it whatsoever, to bring someone like Gravenberch there who can dribble out, he can take on a man, he can take a man out of it, and then use the ball really, really well. I just think that was a smart tactical decision. And again, a really big part of the fact that Liverpool was so dominant in the last stages of the game, really. So I wouldn't be too worried from Kwanzaa's perspective. And I think, he's picked up a decent amount of minutes, hasn't he, in the cups and things, which is as much as you could probably expect so far this season. So, he's not quite there as the first choice, but you understand why it's Konate as well. So I'm not too worried about Kwanzaa at the moment, although, if he's getting frustrated and he wants more minutes, then that's a conversation he has to have with the manager. But for me, I'm not real concerns about that yet.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see how many minutes they get in the coming fixtures at the same time. And we'll turn, like we always do, to the latest rumours, the latest things that are coming up. And this man, who most people had never heard of last week, Stefano Simas. Now, I kind of mentioned this link to you last week, and literally since then, there's been all sorts of reports. I know you've seen them as well, that Liverpool are in Germany. Liverpool are really keen. Sam Maguire had a story on that. James Pearce then saying this morning that Liverpool are not pursuing a deal. Is that still your understanding? There's nothing really in this at all?
Yeah, like I said in the last pod, really just no encouragement from Liverpool's side that this is anything they're interested in. And I don't really understand the link at all either. I mean, in terms of young strikers coming through, you've got Jadon Danns, Tszimas is not proven at a really high level that makes you think that Liverpool will be all over it. if you're going to sell Nunes, they're going to get someone in who's of a much, has played at a higher level, absolutely. So, the signing this summer for the attack was Chiesa. So you think they're not shopping in the kind of bargain bin or looking for, young players like this who they need to develop. It's someone who's a little bit further along in the story. So yeah, I'd be absolutely amazed if anything happens with this. And it's my understanding there's no real interest there.
Interested, and probably I suspect it's going to be the same for this. I could be wrong, but that rumour that's come up, and there's quite a few people quoting this, that Liverpool may be looking to potentially use Ben Doak, who's currently on loan at Middlesbrough, in a deal for Semenyo, a player at Bournemouth who scored a belter last night and has been linked with Liverpool quite a few times. I'm guessing not heard anything on this one at all either.
No, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Semenyo is a player they like, because there's a lot to like about him, age-wise, profile-wise. He fits the bill a lot, so I'm sure he'll be on the radar. But in terms of a swap deal that would involve Ben Doak, I'm sure Bournemouth wouldn't be particularly happy with that. I don't think Ben Doak is quite at that level yet. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if there's anything in this. It kind of reeks of agent talk to me, to be honest.
Yeah, there's probably bound to be a few more of those that we file under that heading as well in the coming month, why it's left as well. And I suppose the only other thing I wanted to ask you about January, you will see it in your YouTube comments, social media, etc. And it's kind of understandable. There is a big clamour for at least one to come in. And you've probably seen stories as well about Martin Zubimendi being linked to Arsenal, being potentially close to Arsenal now as well. Can you understand that almost frustration that others are doing business, and maybe there's positions, and we've talked about them before, it's not brand new, like a midfielder, a left back could just come in and be so important to get us over the line, as it were, or to lift a big trophy. Can you understand why there is that clamour at the moment?
No. No, because what frustrates me about the window, and I know I'm going to get so many comments disagreeing with me about this, but it's a real bugbear of mine, is that people just go, oh, well, Liverpool have to sign someone now. And it's like, well, all right, I'm fine with people thinking that, but you have to explain your working and say where they are, what they do, what the role is between now and the end of the season. So, for example, I saw clamour yesterday for a centre-half. Okay, so if Liverpool are signing a centre-half now in January, whose place in the squad did he take? Are we not playing Jarell Quansah for the rest of this season, or are we dropping Canate? If people want to make that decision, that's absolutely fine. When Joe Gomez comes back, is he not playing any minutes either? So is that why we want to sign a centre-half? There's one of those four that we don't want anywhere near the starting 11 or the squad for the remainder of the season. So people have to explain that. If it's a central midfielder, so say it was Zubimendi or a holder of that sort, is what's happening with Ryan Gravenberch over the remainder of the season? Is he just doing a job share with someone? Are they being dipped in and out? Because they both can't play alongside Alexis McAllister, can they? So for me, if Liverpool go and sign a midfielder, for me, it has to be a multifunctional midfielder. It has to be someone who can play in that deepest role. So you've got cover for Gravenberch, although that, of course, means Endo is going, by the way, which I think will possibly happen in the summer. But people seem to be wanting him to play more, and yet they want him completely jettisoned from the squad. So I don't really quite understand that. So for me, if Liverpool do, like I say, if they sign a midfielder, I think it'll happen in the summer rather than now. It's got to be someone who's multifunctional. It can't be someone who plays Gravenberch's role and is turning up thinking that they're going to get 50 games a season and they just play 25 each. It's never going to work. But if people say that they want to sign a left back, I can absolutely get on board with that. That to me is the one area where I'd say if someone signs a left back there, that would genuinely move the dial for this Liverpool team and make it a completely different prospect. That I can fully get on board with. I totally understand that kind of argument. But all I'm seeing is kind of these real generic, we've got to reinforce the squad, or Arne Slot's being denied this, that, and the other. I don't know. People just make this up in their heads that the manager's being kind of is knocking on the door saying he desperately wants signings and he's not getting them because they basically want to blame it on the owners rather than blaming it on the sporting director and the manager, and that combination in the football staff not necessarily wanting a signing. I know people find that hard to imagine, but there is a world where the manager's saying, I'm absolutely happy to go with these two left backs to the end of the season. But if he's not, and there is the prospect of getting a left back in, that for me is the area that I would love to see them strengthen, because I think it, like I say, if you have a left back who is, an improvement on Robertson or Tsimikas between now and the end of the season, it massively improves the team. And I think Liverpool will win the Premier League regardless of whether they do that or not. But But in terms of the Champions League, I think getting in a left back now would be pretty helpful.
Yeah, I think left back, to be fair, would be the starting position, if I'm right, for most people. But yeah, there is mixed reviews, and you can't pretend there isn't the clamour at the moment. We'll see what happens for the rest of the window. And